Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
You're locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke Loves Rasslin.
And there is no one that does it better than
Your host,
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
the Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Welcome back to Duke Loves Rasslin, the show about pro wrestling and everything else. Let me tell you something. I am just completely flabbergasted, folks. I'm completely flabbergasted. And I hope everyone's doing all right out there. Hope you're being safe. Please mask up, the whole 9 yards. This COVID-19 stuff is just crazy. Please mask up. Please be careful, regardless if you're vaccinated or not. Just be careful out there because the numbers are going up, But I'm flabbergasted. And let me start with this. Anyone who knows me, you know that I'm a person that has a healthy respect for the law, right? I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm a person that feels that work within the parameters of the law. Keep yourself out of jams. No two ways about it. So I don't promote violence for violence sake or anything crazy like that, right? Promote legal violence, mind you. If two parties or more want to engage in physical battle, as long as they both provide consent, whether it be a release or a verbal agreement, what have you, as long as both parties understand what they're getting into, I'm all for that. That's above board. That's legal. That's clear. But when I talk about dealing with problems, solving problems, please understand that I'm 100% talking within the parameters of my legal rights. Okay? And this episode this week is all about solving a problem. Okay. I had big plans for this episode. I was going to have some folks on, including a fan from Pakistan, reached out and had some things to say about the fandom over there, pro wrestling fandom. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Come on the show. Let's talk about that. And I'll do that on another episode. We'll get our schedules together and do that. I had to put that on hold because something really crazy happened. AEW has hit me with essentially a copyright strike on Facebook. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Last week, we had Trey D from We Love Rasslin. He was on the show, and we had a great conversation about a lot of different things. I encourage everybody to check out that episode, last week's episode, Duke Loves Rasslin, with Trey D from We Love Wrestling. And, I do these little clips of the episodes, about 2 minutes and 18 seconds long, where I take some of the best quotes from an interview or from the episode. I put photos up with it, put some music underneath it, just a way to promote the episode. No harm, no foul. Well, I was informed by Facebook that allegedly 44 seconds of last week's clip, and you can see it on Facebook, you can see it on Twitter, Duke Loves Rasslin page, 44 seconds contains AEW-owned property. And because of that, AEW is trying to take ownership of the entire video, right? Now, the only part of that video that can be claimed to be AEW property is I used one photo of Thunder Rosa, and it was the photo saying that she is all elite. She signed the contract with AEW. And the quotes that we used, we were talking about that and giving praise for my sister Thunder Rosa signing with AEW officially, right? So this is irony here. This was positive news for AEW. We were basically giving them a shout out for signing literally one of the greatest stars in the history of pro wrestling. Thunder Rosa, somebody who is a fantastic person inside and out, who can get it done in the ring and outside the ring. She is so charitable and does so many great things in the community. Literally, she's somebody who makes a difference well beyond anything that you can imagine in pro wrestling, right? So we were giving props to that. AEW hits me with a copyright strike. They're trying to take ownership of my video. So, of course, I had to, dispute that because that's my intellectual property. That's my hard work. But let's go a little deeper than that. Duke Loves Rasslin is a pro wrestling news show. I bring on the newsmakers, interview them. I analyze the news, and I give my opinion on things that are going on as it relates to pro wrestling. That graphic of Thunder Rosa being quote-unquote all elite, that's in the public domain. You want that to be distributed in the public domain because you want this is an advertisement, basically, right? So for AEW to try to take ownership of my whole video because I flashed their graphic, okay. And let me tell you something. I know why. I know why this is happening. Since its inception, I have been the most consistent critic of AEW. And mainly because I could tell from the beginning that they were making promises. They were making claims that the people involved who were making these promises and making these claims, I had no faith that they would actually hold up their end of the bargain, right? And to their credit, they've proven me right at every single turn. They are not holding up their end of the bargain. They are not featuring women's wrestling equally to men's wrestling. Women are not getting paid equal to their male peers. Black wrestlers are not being featured equally to their white male counterparts. None of this is happening, right? The diversity and the inclusion lacks equity, something that AEW said that, it would not lack. And I'm paraphrasing on that front. They said that everything will be equal. And it's not. There isn't equal opportunity. I can say that with confidence because the proof is in the pudding. This is what they've put out there. This isn't my opinion. I'm analyzing what's there, right? So I've been all over them, especially lately, over the fact that with all these new signings, these former WWE folk, AEW has been pretty proficient at making white male wrestlers rich, rich white male wrestlers richer. And I asked the question, other than Mark Henry, can some black wrestlers get some of that $100 million piece of the pie? I even gave examples of black wrestlers who are out there who would be fantastic behind the scenes and in front of the camera. Rodney Mack and Jazz and Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat. I brought up Scoot Andrews, who has a tremendous background in management and what have you. Brought up a bunch of people just to give examples. Why is it that AEW keeps hiring these veterans and not a single one of them are black? Other than Mark Henry, which was a recent hire in its own right. I'm all over them. And here's what's funny. In the beginning, everybody and their mama was trying to silence me and shut me down and stop me from saying the things that I was saying because I was saying, they're making claims, they're not backing it up from day one. And that still happens today, but here's what's interesting. There are far more people today who are using the same exact talking points that I've been using all along than ever before as it relates to this company. Because all of that give it time and all of that stuff and who's out there, none of that stuff holds water, right? There's no excuse. I just watched Dynamite the other day. I was flipping back and forth, and because I wanted to see the Thunder Rosa match, but there was not a single black male wrestler who wrestled on that card on Dynamite. And there was only one women's match, and the match itself lasted less than 7 minutes. So what does that tell you? This is their number one property, their television show, right? This is where they make their money. They're telling you that black wrestlers, nope, we're not going to feature them, and if we do, they're going to lose anyway. Overwhelmingly, with very few exceptions. And they're telling you that, we'll feature one women's match per week on TV because that's all they're worth. This is what they're telling us. I go by what they're doing here, right? So I've been all over them. But something is happening where people are starting to ask the same questions and point out the same things, use the same talking points. And I have it on good authority that the leadership in AEW, they're getting a little nervous, right? They're being questioned a little bit more about this stuff. And they don't have the answers because there's no excuse other than the fact that there is a systemic issue happening in that company. And I say that based on the evidence. So what do you do now? Because people are really paying attention to what I have to say. People are asking these questions about your systemic issues. What do? You try to go after my channel using Facebook to start? Let me tell you something. And I say this to everybody in that damn company who is a decision maker. You are more than welcome to come to my city, Boston, Massachusetts. I will find a gym. I will draw up a release. I will sign it. You can sign it. And we can engage in hand-to-hand combat. I have no problem with that, legally, mind you. Right? Every last one of you who is a decision maker in that company can get it. So we can do that. You're welcome to come on this show. And we can engage in a verbal discussion about the systemic issues that are happening in that company, about the way that women are being treated, about the fact that, black male singles wrestlers in particular do not have equal opportunity in that company. We can engage in that discussion too on this show, right? We can do either or we can do both. I'm all for it. But you got to understand something, folks. And I'm talking to you in particular, Tony Khan. Anthony, you pissed on the wrong hornet's nest, my man. You can't turn back now. You've come after what I have built. You've come after me. And now you have my undivided attention. I am going to comb through everything that you're doing over there, Tony, legally. And I'm going to be all over you, brother, legally. You pissed on the wrong hornet's nest. You can't intimidate me. You can't push me around. I don't care how much money your daddy has. I don't know. Are you drinking too much coffee? Is it too much wacky tobacco? Are you too much alcohol in your system? What is it, that stuff that the degenerates down there in Florida do? What is it? Kratom? Are you doing too much kratom? I don't know. Huh? What's going on? Because these are not the actions of somebody who has their right mind. Not in my opinion, at least. You're trying to take over my intellectual property for what? Because you're afraid of what I have to say about your business practices? Here's the thought. Why don't you spend that time improving on your business practices? Why don't you spend that time promoting women the way that you said you would, instead of giving them one measly match every week? Why don't you spend that time promoting black male singles wrestlers instead of treating them as if they're less than their white peers? They're the number one losers in the company. That's a predetermined entertainment medium. So you were choosing to put them in that position. It is not equal. It's not like black male singles wrestlers have action figures in that company. So even the other residual monies that can be made. It's not happening. Scorpio Sky is the only one who has one action figure out of all the series that you've released thus far. And he's related to an executive in the company, Brandy Rhodes. So let's not even go there. I'm telling you, folks, he pissed on the wrong hornet's nest. And let me tell you, all of you out there who consistently make excuses for these folks, do me a favor. Go stand over there with them. I'll line each and every one of you up and take you all on. We can do that. Legally, we can do that. Right? We'll line each and every one of you up. It's fine. It's interesting. You will sit there and go out of your way to promote systemic racism and sexism and unequal treatment. And you do so because you're afraid to actually say, hey, this is not acceptable, and then be consistent and stand firm on that. This guy, he has a history of trying to silence people. He's been in my inbox talking nonsense. So let's not pretend here. Right? This is what he does. Tony Khan. And his gang of brain trust over there, right? Children of God is what I call them. Trying to be respectful here. You've laid down the gauntlet, so now you got to deal with it, brother. I'm on you, man. I am all over you on this. Okay? I am going to go through that company with a fine-tooth comb. All of your business practices. Right? I am going to shout it from every mountaintop I can. And you know something? There's going to be a lot of people behind me doing the same thing. You have brought this to yourself. You did this to yourself. It didn't have to be this way, Tony. Right? You put yourself in this position the moment you decided that you wanted to lash out against me with your fake, phony, ridiculous copyright strike. Going after my content because you want to suppress media. You want to silence media. That's got to be what it is, right? I'm getting a little too close to the action here. And let me tell you something, Tony. There are people in your company, and make no mistake about it, they laugh at you. They think you're a joke. They go out and they tell your business, Tony. You hear me, Tony? I said this before. You know, if it wasn't for the money, they wouldn't even be around you, man. These folks don't like you. You know why? Well, you know, you can go talk to yourself about that. I don't need to give you all the answers. But if you think for 1 second you can push any weight around here, good luck. You got another thing coming, brother. You can sign the release. We can engage in hand-to-hand combat. You can come on the show. We can engage verbally. But make no mistake about it, from a legal perspective, I'm all over your company, brother. I'm all over you trying to take my stuff down. I'm all over you, Tony. So there it is. And anybody else that wants to be on that side, I'm okay with that. I'm all over you too. So that's that. It's really ridiculous. And those of you out there who have been quiet, and especially those of you in media, you websites and what have you, who sit there and you watch this uneven racial treatment, this uneven treatment of women, you ought to be ashamed of yourself for not speaking up more about this. I don't even understand how it's even possible, because all of you think you're so woke and you want to promote that you're so liberal and you're so with it and you're so modern. And yet you have the audacity to promote and foster a company that continues to conduct themselves in this manner. Tony Khan, I'm all over you, brother. So just remember, you put us here. You brought us to this point. This isn't on me. I was perfectly fine just being a wrestling fan who talks about this stuff. You know, I would have patted you on the back had you been doing the right thing, but you're not. And now you're upset with me because I called it out. Good. Let it be known. Once and for all, we were at odds on this one, Tony. So pack a lunch, brother, because it's going to be a hell of a ride. You can bet on that. And I'm going to leave it there. Everything else I was going to say with this episode, you know, we'll save that for next time. I want this to be the only thing discussed this week. I want this to be the only thing thought about this week. These people are crazy. They're crazy if they think they can come after me and that's okay. Doesn't work like that. You know? What the old phrase that I love from Casino, you know, who's going to muscle Nikki? Nikki is the muscle. It's like, you can't push me around, man. And you've done this before to other people. I've seen you go after Girl on Cinema and some of these other folks. AEW botches. I've seen what you've done to them. But let me tell you something. There is a distinct difference with what I do on this show. Because this isn't comedy for me. And this isn't, I'm not doing an x-ray on all the botches that you have, which is plentiful in every one of your programs. That's not my lane. I'm focused exclusively on the treatment of black and brown folk, the treatment of women in that company, especially black male singles wrestlers, especially just all the women in general, and the amount of time that they get on television, the way that you promote them or the lack thereof compared to their white male peers, right? That's my lane. That's where I've been from the beginning. That's what I talk about. That's what people know me for. And it's 100%, it has everything to do with you. This is what you're doing, right? This isn't me. So, again, you brought us here, Tony, from every legal angle. Okay? I'm on it. So, let's dance, brother. Let's dance. Okay. And, I can't punctuate this any better than the voice of AEW, Mr. Tony Schiavone. Take it away, Tony.
Mr. Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Rasslin.